Hey everybody, my name is Jake. Welcome to the pre-show.
Hey everyone, my name is Ron. Like Jake said, we're so excited that you're hanging out with us in the pre-show. Make sure to say hey in the chat, or you can do my life hack. I don't say anything and I just throw in emojis. My favorite ones are the raised hands. Whoop, whoop.
Those are good ones. Very 2021 of you, Ron. Well done. Well, hey, congratulations. There's no better way to start your week than being at church. So well done.
That's right. Sundays, definitely my favorite day of the week. Because think about it, Jake, we get to listen to some great music, get an encouraging message. I get to hang out with you.
Thanks, Ron.
That's cool. And then I get to go home and veg and watch some playoff football. It's the best. I love it.
Playoff football is good. It's not. I won't say it's the best because, well, the Eagles aren't in the playoffs this year, so
that is true.
That's a little bit of a bummer. But
at least our Sixers. Our Sixers are doing pretty good. I'm team Doc. I like it.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a good season. Gonna be a good season. Well, anyway, Ron, I enjoyed hanging out with you here in the pre-show.
Right,
I'm glad to be here. But I did notice I watch pre-show every week. Last week, you were all decked out. You had on a tie, you had on a coat, looking dapper. This week, not doing that. So what was the deal there?
Yeah, me and Will were definitely all decked. Well, Will was definitely more than I was. I was kind of, but you know, then he had to put me on blast, and everybody saw my knees. Yeah. You know, nobody needs to see that. But we had the balloons and the red carpet. And we were dressed in our Sunday's best because we wanted to let people know about Night to Shine.
Yeah, Night to Shine, they should know about that. Super big event, was something we do. My favorite thing we do actually every year is the Night to Shine prom event for people with special needs. And so really special time. This year we get to keep doing it, even though we're in a pandemic. It's gonna be a little bit different, but we've adjusted, we've pivoted, and so we're still gonna make all of our guests feel like VIPs.
That's right, and Night to Shine is an incredible time for you to be able to serve, and it's really an amazing night. Definitely one of my favorite events of the entire year. If you've never served on a team, this is when you should jump on. I promise you, you will not regret it. So if you wanna sign up to serve for Night to Shine, go to forphilly.com and pick a team, and it doesn't matter if you're local to Philly or you're watching from all over the globe, there's a team that's perfect for you. Go do that. I promise you that you will be so glad you did.
Yeah, it's true. They have roles for like writing cards to people and stuff. So you can do that from anywhere. So, hey, we'd love to have some people join us who maybe aren't in the Philly area to help us make this great event happen. So it's a perfect time to be thinking about serving and all that, because tomorrow, Monday, is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a national day of service. And so, of course, Martin Luther King was an incredible civil rights leader. And what greater way to celebrate all that his life meant than to spend some time serving other people?
Yeah, for all of us, Dr. King set such a great example of how we should treat others. Whether we agree with them or we don't. So I'm super thankful that we get to celebrate his life and his work. And Jake, what's really cool is Dr. King actually had a ton of ties to our Philly area.
Oh yeah, I learned that this week. Did a little bit of research, found that he gave speeches at Villanova University, at Lincoln University.
That's cool.
Took classes at Crozier Theological Seminary. He audited a class at UPenn. And so lots of Philly area connections for Dr. King.
Yeah, and when we were researching all that stuff, I found something very surprising when he was at Crozier in 1950. I looked up some of the classes he took. He took one class and he got a C in it, and I was like, what? Can you guess what class it was?
You gotta see, I don't know. I mean, he's a super sharp guy, so I don't know what he would have gotten a C in.
Public speaking.
Stop it.
I was like, what? I'm like, yo, Dr. King got a C in public speaking. Yeah, but you know what that tells us, right?
Yeah, obviously grades don't matter.
That's not what we're trying to do. But what it does tell us is that there's always opportunities for us to grow.
Yeah, well, that is true. Clearly, after he gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, they're like, "Oh, I think he nailed it. He got it down."
He passed.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, no matter where you would serve, whether it's at Night to Shine or somewhere else, I do hope that you make serving a huge part of your life, a really important part of your life, not just in this season, but every day.
Like Dr. King once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, today I'm super excited for episode 3 of our 2021 series. We're learning about how to be one with God, one with each other. And what I like most about this is that we are starting the year off focusing on what's most important. And that's really a big deal.
That's something that we all need. And so here's what I'm gonna ask all of us to do right now. I would love for you to like, comment, and share today's service. And one of the easiest ways that you can actually share, it's one of my life hacks, is I'll actually text somebody the YouTube link and just say, hey, come join me for church. And we believe that God is leading us to live our best life, and we want to put all that in front of as many people as possible. So you never know the impact it could have on someone's life.
Yeah, so true. And it's never been easier than it is today to invite somebody to church. So let's do that. And hey, it looks like the service is about to start.
Yep.
So why don't we get to it? See you there.
Hey everyone, welcome to church. My name's Justin.
Hey, and I'm Emily.
Hey, welcome to Epic Online. You're gonna have a great time with us today. Hey, as we get things started today, we ask everyone to text in to check in. It's something we ask every week for everyone watching. We'd love for you to text in. Just let us know that you're out there watching with us. All you gotta do is text the word "here" to the number on the screen, 215-999-8575. Matter of fact, why don't we all just pause, take a moment to text in real quick right now. So I'm gonna check in, send that text. Hey, by the way, when you check in, we'll respond back and ask you if we could be praying for you during the week. If you'd like to share something, you can let us know, and our pastors and our prayer team will be praying for you this week.
All right, well, I'm all checked in. Hopefully you guys are as well. We just want to be able to pause and shout out anybody who is with us for the first time. Hey guys, we're so excited that you found us and that you're with us, and we would love to be able to hook you up with a gift, a t-shirt, in fact. So all you have to do is text that same word "here" into us. Let us know what t-shirt size you are, and we'll make sure that we get that out to you right away.
Yeah, whether you're new or you've been around Epic for a while, you're gonna have a great time with us today. We got a song coming up. You're gonna get to meet Richard, and we are in part 3 of our series 2021. Today we're talking about unity, which, given the beginning of this year, the first couple weeks, I think is a pretty relevant topic for all of us.
Yeah, it's extremely relevant right now, and really always is. Just that importance and reminder that even though we fight against it, we need each other.
Yeah.
And one of the places that I find the best kind of unity is within my group. So I get to be part of a women's leadership group that meets on Monday nights, and the relationships that I find there are so life-giving and really life-changing. It's been amazing what we have walked through together as a group. There have been people who have lost loved ones. There's been battles with difficult relationships, financial issues, health issues. And every time someone's going through something, everybody just kind of gathers and binds together to really be that person's support system. And when something great happens, it's like the best cheerleading squad you could possibly find. And just this reminder that we don't have to do life alone.
Yeah. We want that same experience for you. The same thing Emily and her crew gets in her group. We want you to be able to experience that as well. And so right now we're actually in the sign up period for groups. Groups, if you don't know, are just smaller groups of people who meet weekly. Right now, everyone's meeting on Zoom. And we have all different types of groups. In fact, there's 3 main categories for groups. The first one is Alpha, and that's for anyone who's exploring their faith.
Yeah, anybody new to their faith, even people who are like, I'm not really sure what I believe. This is a great group for you. If you're new to Epic or you've not been a part of groups before, Alpha is perfect.
Yeah, after you've gone through Alpha, then we have life groups. There's a whole bunch of different types of life groups.
Yeah, so many different types, so many good types. We have Bible studies, book studies, discussion groups. We got guy groups.
I'm in one of those.
You got girl groups. Hey girls! We've got all different types of groups to choose from. Yeah.
And then for those who are looking to take their faith to the next level, we have a discipleship group.
Yeah, this is the level up group. This is if you're really looking to challenge yourself and to lean into your faith in a new kind of a way. The discipleship group is your group.
Yeah, so no matter where you're at on your spiritual journey, we've got a group for you.
Yep.
And you can find all that information on our website, epic.church/groups. And to make it even easier for you, we could just text you the link for that. If you text the word groups to the number on the screen, we will reply back with the link. In fact, we also have a groups expert on standby, ready to answer any questions you might have. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get easier than that. If you have questions about groups in particular, or you're like, I don't know what to choose, I need some help, this group expert, they'll be able to walk you through that and get you the hookup.
So all you gotta do is text the word groups, and someone will literally respond back and help you out personally. It's pretty cool.
It's so fancy. It's kind of like a group's concierge, you know?
Yeah, hey, we're up in our game here. So actually, let's test this out because we want to make sure this works for everyone. So I'm texting in, and I'm gonna ask him, hey, this is Justin. I'm gonna say, can I get a number 1 with the lemonade?
Stop. Justin.
Boom. I want to see what they say about that.
No. Okay, clarification.
Got text back. Hi, Justin.
Stop. This is for groups.
Listen, he said, that's a great choice. Sadly, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday, but I'd be happy to help you pick a group. There you go. Groups concierge on the game. Not even going to ask me if I want fries with that. Getting straight to the point. So you could try it out as well.
Yeah, listen, we encourage you to try it out, but take it easy on him, okay? Don't be like Justin. Listen, it's a great place to be able to ask any questions that you might have. Make sure that you do get signed up. Listen, there's no excuses, nothing preventing you from getting the right hookups. All you have to do is text in that word groups to that same number, and someone will be on the other end.
Yeah, and if you're newer to Epic, groups are a great place to connect, meet some people. Hey, if you're new, groups are for you as well, especially that alpha one that we were talking about before. Well, hey, I think we've officially talked about groups enough.
Done.
You know, I don't want to harass the groups experts on the other end, but hey, we are going to hear a song from our band in just a moment. And whether you like to sing along on the couch or you like to play the air guitar or the air drums like me, whatever it is, I hope you'll sing along and worship with us and with our bands. Come on, let's check it out.
Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Praise arise. Come on. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Let it rise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, come on, sing it up. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift we praise you.
Well, thanks, Epic MSC, for leading us in that song. Justin, I don't know about you, but I can't help but be encouraged after listening to that.
Yeah, it's so good. Thank you, band, for leading us. And in just a moment, we're going to get to hear from Richard. And he shares some of his experience with the group and how that's impacted his life. And before we get to that, though, I just want to pause and say thank you to everyone who gives financially to support our church and continue the mission that God has given us. Listen, you're helping us to create the best church experiences we know how, even in the middle of a pandemic. Thank you for being a part of that. I know we're building community, providing space for so many people to connect. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. I know I'm personally just so thankful that before I was even part of the church, that people gave so that I could have a church family to actually connect with. It's been incredible. I might never know your names. I may never meet any of you, but I was able to come to Philly from Baltimore. I was able to find community. I was able to be reminded that I belong and that I'm welcomed here. And because of all that, I was able to really grow in my relationship with God. And what's so neat about it is that right now, all of you who are giving, you're making that possible for somebody else.
Yeah, and you may never even realize the impact that you're having, but thank you for your giving and your generosity. Hey, if you're part of our Epic family, we invite you to give today. All you got to do is text that number on the screen, and you can do it simply by doing that. And we're going to hear a story from Richard. Richard has been a part of our church for a little while, and he's been involved in groups, and it really has impacted his life. So why don't you check this out?
My first experience in an Epic Life group was, I would say, maybe 3 years ago. We met in person, Center City. We all did the Daniel fast together. We read the book together, and all of us having this collective joint experience together is very memorable. This is me like 3 years later, and I remember how I felt. I remember, the connections. There's something really special about that, being together. It's so different from, being in church on Sunday. I remember when I first started in my life group, the first thing I would say is, guys, I am not a pastor, I'm not a teacher. At the end of the day, what I'm doing is creating a space for other people to be able to just come together and share perspective, and all of us grow together. Life group, it's not gonna grow if you don't participate. Same way it's not gonna grow if I don't, participate either. So we're all jointly doing this thing together. Life group going online has been interesting. I remember the first meeting that I had, I went to the wrong link. But aside from the growing pains of online, Life Group has been super convenient. I feel like we can just be in our pajamas and sweatpants and not have to get dressed. And we can log on, or we can have our favorite snack, and we can do that all in the comfort of our own homes. And your apartment could be a complete mess, and nobody can know. It's a very open, safe space, and at your comfortability, you can share. The beautiful thing about Life Group is you just show up. We all know that, you come to church on Sunday, you go back home, but how many people know you? How many people do you know? How many people are impacting, your walk? And that's what Life Group has done. It's just so nice to be able to know people on a more personal level than just, go to church and go back home. There's more to just coming to church and sitting in the rows. Kent says a really cool thing about rows and circles.
That there's something that happens in circles that just doesn't happen in rows. Rows are great, rows are good, but there's just something about a circle. Here's the reason why. It's because your row don't know. Take a second, look down your row. Look left, look right. They don't know. Your row don't know. When it comes to your heart and where it's at right now, your row don't know. When it comes to what's going on in your life, your row don't know. I want you to have a network of relationships with people who really know you, who know.
It's really nice to be able to have a group of people throughout the years who know you and who want to see you grow in your faith, and you the same thing. The thing about Life Group that I really love is that it's soil. So, think about what happens on Sundays. You come to church, you hear the music, the message, it's all great, and you go back home. But then something, like Life Group in the middle of the week is something that allows whatever was planted on Sunday to grow and bear fruit. And that's what anyone wants in their faith.
Well, hey everyone, my name's Kent. I'm a lead pastor here at Epic, and I'm so glad that you're doing church with us today. This is part 3 of our series 2021, where we're talking about Jesus' prayer that his followers would be one. Now that doesn't mean that Jesus wanted us all to be the same. If he wanted us all to be the same, he would have made us that way, but he made us all different. In fact, it means the complete opposite. See, oneness is not sameness. See, what Jesus taught is that he wanted us to be so committed to him, so committed to his priorities, and so committed to be unified with each other that we would refuse to let anything divide us, like anything. That whenever you looked at a group of followers of Jesus, you'd see 2 things. You'd see both unity and diversity. Why is that? It's because that's what unconditional love looks like. That the very best reflection and the very best representation of who Jesus is and who Jesus was is that. Unconditional love in spite of any type of differences. See, our unity and diversity, I think, speaks so loudly in a divided world, doesn't it? Yeah. See, we live in such a broken world. We live in a world that chooses suspicion over trust. We live in a world that chooses self over others, pride over humility, anger over empathy, power and powering up when we should be serving and propping up. We've seen meanness over kindness. We've seen convenience over truth. We've seen judgment over grace, punishment over forgiveness. We've seen sitting in silence over standing for justice. And we live in a world that has become far more interested in defending than in understanding. And so Jesus comes along, he flips that upside down. He says, listen, if you're gonna be my follower, this is not gonna be true of you. And of all the things that he could have prayed for us, he prayed that we would be one. Now you've heard the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. Now that's not an American idea. That's a biblical idea. See, Jesus prayed that we would be one. Now sure, that phrase is printed on our money, but man, is it far from our experience. See, I think Jesus knew that it would be this way. And so strategically, he prayed that his followers would choose unity and diversity, and that we would put a better way, God's better way, on display. Listen, there is a better way. We're called to be one with God and to be one with each other. It's totally possible, but we've got to be intentional. And so in this series, we're talking about some things that I think will help us all grow to be one in 2021. Now today, I want to pick up where we left off last week and talk a little more about the importance of groups. I love how Pastor Jake said it last week. He says, hey, you'll never experience your place in God's plan if you don't pursue meaningful relationships with other followers of Jesus. You just won't. Why is that? It's because you were never meant to do this life alone. We weren't. All week, I've been thinking 2 things. Number 1, Jake should teach more often. And number 2, it's so true. Like you'll never experience your place in God's plan if you don't pursue meaningful relationships, if you don't pursue oneness with other followers. Now, as a pastor, one of the things I think is interesting about my job is that I feel like I have a front row seat to the story of people's lives. See, I get to see it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm there for graduations and weddings and babies and promotions and answered prayers, but I'm also there for divorces and setbacks and loss. And one thing you'll start to notice if you've done that for a while is that we're not all that different. Like we have a lot of the same struggles, some of the same questions, same needs, same tendencies. And that's why you can listen to a sermon and you feel like whoever's teaching is talking like right at you. It's like, how did he know? You know how we know? Instagram stories. That's how we know. No, I'm kidding. No. I could get a ton of sermon material from story posts. Trust me, I think I could. But the truth is we don't know. It just turns out that we're not all that different. There's just some things that we all have in common. There's some things that we all need to avoid, and there's some things that would be beneficial for all of us to experience. And having meaningful relationships with other people in God's family just happens to be one of those things that's beneficial for every single one of us. And we all need people in our lives that help us grow and become the person that God planned for us to be. It's very possible that part of God's plan for me involves you. It's very possible that part of God's plan for you involves me. See, we need each other. And maybe it's not specifically me that you need, but it's somebody. I guarantee you that. Because you'll never experience your place in God's plan without meaningful relationships with other followers of Jesus. Now, here's the thing about that. I can't create meaningful relationships for you. We as a church can't create meaningful relationships for you. But we can create environments where those kinds of relationships could start. And we call those environments groups. Now, when most people think about the church, they think about this big gathering part. Now, whether that's on site at a location in a building when it's not COVID time, or it's online right now like we are, people think of the part where there's one guy talking and everybody else is listening. But we think that there's a better, even more important part that's the real strength of who we are as a church, and it's groups. See, that's where hundreds and hundreds of busy people with busy lives carve out time out of their busy schedules to meet together with other busy people from our church, to hang out, to learn from one another, to learn from the Bible, to ask questions and pray and grow together. You see, everyone thinks of this big gathering part, but it's this invisible groups part that I think is the secret sauce of who we are as a church. And don't get me wrong, I love the big gathering part, but there's just something about being face to face with some other people that I think is better than all of your faces just looking at a guy giving a talk on a screen. See, groups is where growth happens. Groups is where belonging happens. It's where care happens. It's where accountability happens. Groups is where you find a feet to begin to walk out your faith. Groups is where you start to put handles on some things. It's where you begin to pray with and for some other people. Groups is where you can finally be known. It's where you can find some people to begin to really do life with. See, groups is the thing that I think bridges the gap between what we talk about on Sunday and actually living it out on Monday. Groups is the thing I think bridges the gap between information and application. And I don't want you to miss any of that. But there's one benefit in particular that we're going to talk about today that I really don't want you to miss out on. Before I get there, I want to set it up by showing you something that Jesus said to his disciples in Luke 17. Now, I got to warn you, this isn't going to be anybody's favorite verse. You're not going to find this on any inspirational calendar or written down on a sticky note anywhere. But I think the truth that's found in this verse is enough of a warning to you and me that I'm suggesting that we restructure our entire lives around it. Here it is, Luke chapter 17, verse 1. Jesus said to his disciples, things that cause people to stumble are bound to come. So Jesus looks at the people he's closest to, the people that he loves the most, and he says, now let me give you a little heads up about life. Let me tell you something that I know is true about you because it's true about everybody. Eventually, you're not going to see something that's coming your way that has the potential to cause you to stumble and fall. So Jesus says, it doesn't matter how long you've been around. Doesn't matter how long you've been going to church. Doesn't matter what your religious pedigree is. Doesn't matter how together you think you've got things. It's impossible for you to live this life and there not be some things that come along and trip you up along the way. Jesus says, I promise you, you're just not that good. You're not, because nobody is. Something is going to cause you to stumble. And if you're not careful, it's going to cause you to fall. Aren't you so incredibly encouraged by this? Yeah, me neither. And really, I think this should actually make us a little anxious. Now, my daughter Kaylee, she got some old school roller skates for Christmas this year, which is awesome. But she has no clue how to roller skate, which is not. Now, on top of that, she's 12 years old. And like most growing 12-year-olds, she's neither cautious nor coordinated. And so as you can imagine, that is not the most graceful of combinations. The best way I can describe it is that if you can remember watching Friends, Kaylee skates like Phoebe runs. Remember that? Anyways, since it's cold outside, Kaylee actually has determined that she is gonna skate indoors. So she just goes around in circles inside of our house. And so that has got my anxiety through the roof. Why? It's because I know that she's gonna fall and break something. She's either gonna break herself, she's gonna break our house, or she's gonna break our 3-year-old Gabe. I'm not sure which one, but I know this, it's only a matter of time. Now here's what's interesting about this verse. Jesus pulls his disciples together, and I think in this moment, he's actually a little anxious because he says this, it's like he says, guys, you don't understand. Every single one of you is like a 12-year-old on roller skates. Like regardless of who you are, what you know, how mature you think you are, something that has the potential to cause you to stumble and fall is coming your way. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's inevitable. And here I think Jesus is talking about those things, those people, those relationships, those choices that we make that take us down roads, take us down paths that we would never want to go down. And next thing you know, you find yourself at a place where you've stumbled out of love. You find yourself at a place where you've stumbled into an addiction. You find yourself at a place where you've stumbled into way more debt. You stumbled away from God. You stumbled away from truth. You stumbled away from what you know is right in your heart. And so, if that's true, if we are all like 12-year-olds on roller skates, then what do we do? In my daughter's case, we got her a bunch of safety equipment. Got her a helmet and wrist guards and knee pads and elbow pads and shoulder pads and bubble wrap. We bought it all. Everything you could possibly buy. But in life, there's actually something else that you're gonna need that'll help you when you fall. Now Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived other than Jesus, talks about this in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. I want you to look at what he says, starting in verse number 9. Here's what he says. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. So he starts off by saying this, hey, if you have a project to do, it would be better if you get someone to help you. Makes sense. Then he goes on and he gets to the reason why this is so important in relation to what Jesus said in Luke chapter 17. Verse 10, he says, if either of them falls down, one can help the other up. He says, here's the reason why 2 is better than 1. If one falls down, the other can help them up. If they both fall down, then they can help each other up. He goes on, he says this, he says, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. So let me ask you a question. You ever seen someone fall financially who didn't have anyone around to help them up after they fell? You ever seen a couple fall in their marriage and a husband or a wife is looking, searching for help, but there's no one around to help them up? You ever seen someone fall morally, but there was no one around to help them up? You ever seen someone experience something that was no fault of their own, like maybe something their kid did, but it was so big that it actually impacted their life in a significant way, and there was no one around to help them up? You ever see someone get laid off? There's no one around. You ever see someone go through a difficult health situation? There was no one around to help them up. Yeah, I think we all have. Well, here's the question. If something like that were to happen to you, who in your life feels free to ask, are you okay? And then won't take, I'm fine, for an answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, who are the people in your life that would feel free enough to ask, are you really okay? And then wouldn't take, I'm fine, for an answer. Like, is there anyone who would maybe see you fall in your marriage and then be there to help you up? Is there anybody that if you fell financially or fell morally or fell professionally or had some type of health thing going on, who would already be there to help you up if you were to fall? Because Solomon says, pity the person who falls and has no one there to help them up. Like, pity the person who stumbles and falls, but hasn't built any meaningful relationships with other people who could come along and help them up, who could come along and save them from the pain and the heartache of falling any further, who could come along and keep them from falling so far that it's too difficult for them to even return from it. Solomon says, pity that person who doesn't have those kinds of relationships. He goes on, verse 11, he says this, also if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. Solomon says, hey, at some point, you're going to get so overwhelmed and overcome by the circumstances of life. And when that happens, you'll respond better, you'll recover better, and you'll navigate that situation so much better if you have some other people in your life that help you walk through that together with you. And then he wraps up this whole section by saying this. He says, a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. He says 2 is better than 1, and 3 is even better because it's stronger. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived other than Jesus, said eventually life is going to get overwhelming. And when it does, the best possible scenario for you is that you have some other people that you've cultivated along the way, some meaningful relationships that you've built over time, and those people will be there, and you'll be able to draw strength from those relationships. Now listen, as a pastor, I see this all the time. I see people who go through difficult situations, who go through tough times, and there are those who have a community, and there are those who sadly don't. And there's a huge difference between those two. And here's what I know about community. If you wait to build it, you won't have it when you need it. If you wait to build it, you will not have it whenever you need it. Listen, if you're a follower of Jesus, and you don't have 2 or 3 other followers of Jesus that you're so close with, so close to, that you consider them brothers and sisters, then you're not there yet. Man, and you're totally missing out on the kinds of relationships that God wants you to experience, that God wants you to have. And I think the saddest part about that is that so many people have no idea what they're missing out on. Now, a few years ago, we moved into a new house. And when we moved in, we didn't buy new shades or put in shades in our house because honestly, we're cheap. And so during the summer, from like 3:30 in the afternoon to about 7 p.m., our house was like 80 some degrees every single day. We couldn't watch TV because of the glare from the sun that was coming in from the window. We had to prop stuff up in the window and try to create some shade, and we just all kind of try to cram and sit in the shade. It was a ridiculous situation. Our energy bill went through the roof. It was insane. We finally decided to do something about it. And so I found these like stick-on blinds. You ever heard of these things? They're basically glorified large Post-it notes that you just put on the window. They did absolutely nothing for us. 2 summers ago, we finally got blinds. And we just sat there after they were installed looking at each other thinking, why did we wait so long? Like, what in the world were we doing? What were we thinking? Why did we wait so long? Here's the deal. We had no idea how much better life could be. And gang, I think it's the same when it comes to cultivating and building meaningful relationships and having those kind of relationships in our lives. You have no idea, if you don't have them, how much better life could be. How much more clarity you could have around the decisions that you make if you had some other people to bounce some things off of that were headed in the same direction as you. You have no idea how much more encouraged you could be, how much more strength you could draw, how much more confidence you could have along the way. You have no idea. Gang, listen, even Jesus had a handful of close relationships like this that were considered like his inner circle. Now, if you look at Jesus' relationships and how he invested his time, you'll see that it starts with the crowds. There's the crowd that he spent the least amount of his time with. And then Jesus actually had a group, the 12 disciples, right? And he spent 3 years doing life with these guys. And then beyond that, of the 12, there were 3, Peter, James, and John. Now, what's cool about these 3 guys is that he was a lot closer to these guys in particular. And then of the 3, beyond that, Jesus' most significant relationship was his relationship with God. Now, what's interesting to me about that whole thing is that Jesus didn't take the 12 disciples everywhere he went. See, sometimes he only took his inner circle. Sometimes he only took his squad. And he showed them things that he didn't show others. Like the Transfiguration. This is where he literally peels back his humanity and lets them see his glory. It was Peter, James, and John who were there to see that. Whenever he raised a little girl from the dead, it was Peter, James, and John who were there. Whenever he healed Peter's mother-in-law, it was Peter, James, and John who got to be there for that. And then, in one of the hardest, most difficult moments of Jesus' life, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he pulls Peter, James, and John aside from the rest of the group. And he actually, in this moment of just transparency, he told him this. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow." Can you imagine that moment? And then he asked these guys, he says, "Will you just stay here with me?" And then he prayed. What you see is that in both some of the highest moments of Jesus' life and some of the lowest, it was Peter, James, and John who were there. Now, I don't exactly know why Jesus needed an inner circle, but I know that he had one. And I know that we need one too. We need a handful of people for the highs and lows of life. We need a handful of people that we'll be willing to go places with and share things with that we wouldn't share with everybody else. We need a handful of people that we would be willing to ask to pray for us and to stay with us in those moments of life whenever our soul is overwhelmed with sorrow. We need a handful of people to draw strength from whenever we need it the most. We need a handful of people that we know got our back, and they know that we've got theirs. You see, every single one of us needs 2 or 3 people in our lives like that. Every single one of us needs an inner circle. Now, I can't promise you that you'll find that in a group, but if you don't have that, 1, you have no idea what you're missing. And 2, a group is a great place to start. It really is. Now listen, right now, because of COVID, all of our groups are digital. They're all meeting online. And there's a ton of positives, ton of great things and convenience because of meeting online, like being able to show up with, being dressed just this part and the rest is just all PJs, what I'm talking about. The convenience of not having to drive to someone's house, that's awesome. But there's some inconveniences too. And I think one of the things that you lose when you have a group that meets digitally is you lose all the side conversations that you would have if you were just hanging out at someone's home. And whenever you're in a digital group, only one person can hold the floor at a time. Multiple people can't be having conversations at once. And so this semester in particular, we've begun to rethink how we do groups. And not only are there 3 different types of groups to choose from, but we're introducing something new at the end of each group. The last 10 or 15 minutes of the group, we're actually gonna break out into smaller groups with 3 or 4 of the same people each week so that you can connect and pray with each other. Now, we're gonna give you some consistent questions that you'll be able to ask one another that'll help challenge you and encourage you as a group to keep growing and keep taking some steps forward. And there's just something about walking with each other week after week and knowing that if you're not there, you're gonna be missed, I think could be really powerful in our lives. And my hope is that these smaller groups, that they'll start to check in with one another during the week, and that over the semester, it'll just be easier to go a little deeper. It'll be easier to get to know each other a little better. And maybe from these groups, some of those meaningful relationships that we're talking about, some of those people that you consider to be in your inner circle will begin to emerge. And so if you haven't found your group yet, man, join one today. And if you have a friend or 2 that you're like, man, these are my people, they're my inner circle, and you'd want them to be part of your breakout group, then I want to encourage you, invite them to join your group with you. Now listen, there's so many reasons why we need to cultivate this kind of community with other people. There's so many reasons why you need to find and have an inner circle. And one of them is just so that you can stay connected. When you don't have those kinds of relationships, honestly, whenever you stumble, you can actually fall away from God and faith altogether. You see, it's easy to stumble out of church because church is an attendance thing. It's a habit thing. All you have to do is wake up a little later, Or decide you got something else more important that particular Sunday or Monday, whenever you tune in. You'll decide, oh, I'll just catch up later, but then you don't. And before you know it, you've completely stumbled away. It's easy to stumble out of belief. All you need is some different information, a bad experience or two, and you just decide, you know what? I don't think I believe that anymore. But it's almost impossible to stumble your way out of community. It's almost impossible to stumble your way out of meaningful relationships that you've built over time with other people. I've heard it said that oftentimes the first step away from God is a step away from God's people. And I think that's true. I also think that for many of us, the most significant step that we could take toward God would be a step toward God's people. I think that's true. Another reason why we need to cultivate these kind of relationships and why you need to have an inner circle is because you need it to grow. 2 are better than 1, and 3 is even stronger. See, we can't grow in isolation. Gang, my hope is that you'll discover the joy of having people in your corner who know your name, people who know your faults, your habits, your hangups, people who pray for you, don't judge you, who walk with you through whatever this year might bring your way. People who whenever you find yourself at a place where you start to stray, will bring you back on track. I was thinking about it in a race. When you need the most help? It's not at the beginning. Most of us can get started pretty well. It's not even at the end, because most of us, when you see the finish line, it's like, all right, I'm almost there. When you need the most help is in the middle. Gang, I think that God has given us the gift of each other for the mess that happens in the middle. Let's face it, every single one of us is a 12-year-old on roller skates. It's true, it's inevitable. We're gonna slide from time to time. We're gonna stumble, we're gonna fall. That's why we need to be in a group. That's why we need to have an inner circle. 2 are better than 1, and 3 is even stronger. Let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you so much that you first loved us. And Lord, I pray that you give us the wisdom to know what to do with what we just heard and the courage to do it. God, I pray that you'd help us to take a step toward your people so that we can take a step toward you. In Jesus' name, amen. I love you guys. See you next week.
Yeah, every single one of us needs those 2 or 3 people in our inner circle. And we can't promise that you'll find that in groups, but it is a perfect place to start. And it's really incredible how many times we talk to people who are part of Epic, part of groups, and have found the most meaningful relationships in their life because they're part of a group.
Yeah, and whether you're new to groups or you've been a part for a long time, I want to encourage you, find a group that's good for you this semester and sign up for it, and then invest in those relationships. I know some of you, like me, have been a part of groups before, and maybe you haven't found the closest relationships. And that's okay. We're going to give it another go. I want to encourage you, sign up for another group, be a part of it, and invest in it. I know I need to take my relationship effort to the next level, and I encourage you, there's other people in the group that need you, and you need them. So go to our website, find a group that's a good fit for you, and sign up.
Yeah, definitely get signed up. And just in case you need that one-on-one support, you're like, I don't even know what group to choose. All you have to do is text the word groups in, and we have a groups expert on the other line. We're there to help you.
You can even try to ask them for a Chick-fil-A order and just see what happens for yourself.
Or not.
Yeah. Well, hey, another thing we're excited about coming up is Night to Shine. It's a prom for people with special needs that we get to host in Philadelphia in just a couple weeks. I know so many of you are going to be a part of that. We have hundreds that are needed to pull that off. If you wanted to be a part of Night to Shine, but maybe forgot to sign up, like right now is the time, because it's about to be here. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be so good, and you need to be part of it. Don't wait. You need to get signed up now. You can head right over to forphilly, forphilly.com to do that.
Are you signed up?
Totally signed up, yeah.
I'm signed up. What team are you going to be on?
So I'm going to be on the team that is leaving guests and caregivers with this box of surprises, like best team ever.
Sweet. So it's like a drive-through experience. They're going to end with this surprise box.
A surprise box.
So you could be a part of one of those incredible teams. So hey, get signed up for that. Thanks for being with us today. That's all we got for today. If you enjoyed it, if this has encouraged you, like always, smash that like button. Subscribe, share this, and we'll be back next week.
Official YouTuber over here, guys. And yeah, thanks for being with us. And if you are new, Pastor Kent just wants to say thanks. Otherwise, we will see you next week.
Well, hey, thanks again for joining us for church today. If you're new, we're glad you're here. And I just want you to know, we do church just like this online every single week, and we'd love for you to be a part. Hey, if you had a good time, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow us on Instagram, and we'll make sure we keep you in the loop. Listen, we believe that God has an incredible plan for your life, and we just want to do our part to help you discover what that is. The last thing, make sure you text in to check in. That way you'll be invited to the welcome party. We'd love to meet you. So glad you're here today. We'll see you next week.